It's summertime where Squeaks and I live, which means we've had a lot of thunderstorms lately. Summer thunderstorms usually have rain, thunder, and lightning, and sometimes strong gusty winds. Sometimes the power even goes out. Good thing Squeaks and I have a flashlight just in case. But some areas of the world experience a really extreme kind of storm. A hurricane. Hurricanes are big, powerful storms that have strong winds, and I mean strong. In order to be considered a hurricane, a storm's winds have to be blowing faster than 119 kilometers an hour. That's faster than a car zooming down the highway. Sometimes you'll also hear this kind of storm called a cyclone or a typhoon, but they're all just different names for the same thing. From space, many hurricanes look like this. Big swirling storms that have a really cool shape. That's right, Squeaks. This hurricane looks a little bit like a circle. The clouds wind around a space in the center of the hurricane, called the eye. It even sort of looks like an eyeball. Now, a hurricane shape is pretty cool, but it's not the only thing that's special about this kind of storm. Everything has to be just right for a hurricane to form. It's kind of like a puzzle. The first piece of the hurricane puzzle is warm ocean water. The water has to be at least 27 degrees Celsius, or about as warm as a swimming pool, for a hurricane to form. The warm water causes the air above it to warm up and rise high into the sky. The warm air is very humid, which means that there's a lot of water in it. As the air rises into the sky, other air rushes in to take its place. The air that rushes in gets warm and humid too, and then it rises high into the sky as well. As the air rises, it cools, and clouds start to form. Lots of them. High in the sky is also where we find the second thing that's important for making a hurricane. Wind. And not just any wind. The wind that helps make a hurricane has to be calm and steady. It can't be the kind of wind that blows really hard for a moment or two and then calms down again. If there are sudden gusts like that, the storm can get blown apart, kind of like how a candle gets blown out. But if there's warm, damp air along with those steady winds, and it stays like that for a few days, the rest of the pieces that make up a hurricane fall into place. The steady winds push the growing storm over the ocean, and the warm water gives the storm energy. It causes more air to rise, more clouds to form, and the winds inside the hurricane become stronger. In fact, the only place that it's not very windy is in the hurricane's eye. It's actually very calm in the eye, even though it's right in the middle of the storm. As it grows, the hurricane also starts to turn. It spins around with the eye in the center, kind of like a top. As long as hurricanes have that warm air for fuel, they can keep going and keep growing. But when they reach land or pass over cooler water, they lose their warm air, so they start to fall apart. Hurricanes usually leave behind a lot of rain though. Sometimes the rain can last for days. They also can push a lot of ocean water onto the shore, which can cause a lot of floods. But people can prepare for hurricanes, especially if they know when they're going to happen. For example, most hurricanes near North America happen between May and November every year, because that's when the different pieces that make a hurricane fit together the best. And scientists have lots of tools to try and track hurricanes. They use what they know about science to make really good guesses about where they'll pop up, where they'll go, how big they'll be, and how long they'll last. And if you live or go on vacation in a place where hurricanes might happen, you can be prepared too. You can talk with grown-ups about what you can do if a hurricane happens. That might mean bringing in things from outside to protect them from strong winds. Or it might mean helping to prepare a kit with food, water, flashlights, and a radio. Speaking of flashlights, I know mine can use some new batteries. Come on, Squeaks, let's go to the store to get some new ones. Thanks for joining us on SciShow Kids. If you want to keep learning and having fun with Squeaks and me, you can click the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here at the fort. The weather is a funny thing. One day it can be sunny and warm, perfect day for sunglasses and flip-flops, but the next day it can be cold and rainy. Most of the time, the weather doesn't give us anything that we can't handle, with maybe some sunscreen or an umbrella or a snow shovel. But sometimes, and in some places, there can be extreme weather, like big thunderstorms or hurricanes or snowstorms. And one of the most powerful kinds of extreme weather out there is a type of a storm that scientists pay close attention to: tornadoes. A tornado is a fast-spinning column of air that stretches all the way from a thunderstorm cloud in the sky
down to the Earth's surface. Because tornadoes turn and twist as they move, they're sometimes called twisters. They form inside really big thunderstorms when cold, dry air moving from one direction bumps into warm, wet air coming from a different direction. Because the cold air is heavier, it slides down under the warm air and pushes it up really fast. All this fast-moving air rushing up and down can create a sort of spinning thunderstorm, and it can eventually keep going to form a tornado. And when a tornado forms, it can be one of the most powerful forces in nature. Tornado winds are the strongest in the world, even stronger than hurricanes. In some twisters, we know that the wind can blow to almost 500 kilometers an hour, strong enough to lift heavy things like cars and trucks into the air. And they're loud too. People who have seen them or even been in them say they sound like giant roaring trains. But they don't move as fast as a speeding train. Usually tornadoes travel across the land at about 50 kilometers an hour, slower than most cars go. Now, weather can be really unpredictable, which means that you just can't predict or know what's going to happen before it happens. And that's especially true for tornadoes. These windy storms can speed up, slow down, change direction, or even stand still. And they can last anywhere from a few seconds to as long as an hour. While tornadoes can happen all over the world, they're most common in the United States. About 2/3 of all the tornadoes in the world happen right down the middle of the country, from the Dakotas down to Texas, especially in the late spring and early summer. Because tornadoes are so powerful and so unpredictable, meteorologists spend a lot of time studying them. They want to understand more about exactly how and when tornadoes can form, and hopefully predict when they'll show up. There are even people called storm chasers who follow big storms around the middle of the US, hoping to spot one as it turns into a tornado, so we can get a better picture of what really happens when a twister forms. Scientists still don't know for sure when a tornado is going to happen, but they have gotten better at predicting which thunderstorms might be strong enough to create one. And if they spot a bad-looking storm early enough, then they can give people who live nearby a warning that a twister might be coming. That's one of the most important jobs that a meteorologist has, helping people get ready for extreme weather. So the more they learn about tornadoes, the better we can prepare for them, and the more they can help us understand how our weather works, even when it's not so extreme. I hope the weather is nice where you are. And if you have any questions for any of us here at the fort about weather, animals, space, or anything, just let us know by leaving a comment or emailing us at kids@thescishow.com. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.